Hi, my name is Ron Keel and I'm one of the software developers here on the RanoreX team. This is part two of a series of tutorials that I'm giving on the RanoreXPath. In the first part we covered the RanoreXPath basics so that you could understand the structure and how it works. In this tutorial we're going to go into a little bit more depth and how you can use the path to handle identifying elements that otherwise probably wouldn't even be possible if the path didn't exist. There's some complex scenarios where the identifier dynamically changes. So therefore, if the identifier changes, how do you identify it? How do you find it at runtime? So here's the scenario that I want to cover, and that being, I want to find out what the value is for the second element, which in this case it's green. So you might think, okay, well that's really easy, right? So I just track it and I go and I click on the green. And we'll try that again. Track and green. I must have misclicked there. So yeah, that's great. We found it. Well, if you look at this, we'll notice that it's tracking by the ID inner text. Now, the reason that this is happening is because there's no other attribute that it can qualify this particular cell other than the inner text, because the developer, on purpose in this case, did not set the ID property or a tag value or something of that nature that we could uniquely identify on it. The only value that it had was the inner text. Now, there would be a way around this if we knew that this second element was always going to be the second element, and second element wouldn't be in another position, another row, if you will. So if we know that it's going to be in the second row, then we're okay. Then all we have to do is say, fine, we'll just use the index, and we'll just delete that and say table column 3. So now we're looking at table row 2 and table in the row 2 we're looking at column 3 or cell 3, and that would be a simple fix. Again, however, what happens when this second element moves to a new location? Well, now we don't even know what value we should be looking at, so we need to figure out a way to find out, first off, how to locate this second element. So let's take a closer look at that. So to do that, let's go ahead and turn the editing off, and let's use our track again, and let's track that second element so we can get a better look at how we might find the second element regardless of its row. Well, we see that that also has an inner text, and in this case we're confident that the inner text is not going to change. That's exactly what we want to find. We want to find where second element exists in this table, and we know it's in a row. So let's just do this. So we have our row. Let's just delete the qualifier that says it's in row 2, and then regardless of where it's located and what row it is, it will simply look through all of the rows in the table body for a cell that equals second element, and we see that that still is a valid path. So again, even if that moved to another location, it would find it for us. So now from there, in order to get back to the green, now we know the row. Well, all we have to do then is simply use the relative path capabilities to navigate back to the row of that element so that we can then go to the cell where the green, where the value is. So let's just add the relative path using the parent symbol. So just navigating up one level. And now we see, in fact, we are in that row that contains our second element and, of course, the cell that contains the value of green. So now all we need to do is simply add the TD tag, and now, of course, the index, and we know that is the third cell. And that's all there is to it. So to explain that again, I simply remove the index from the table row so that it could find where it was that this, what row, so basically identify and access the cell, find the cell in any of the rows again, and then using the relative path to navigate back up to that row so that I have the correct row so that I can find the correct cell to retrieve the value of that second element. And it's really that simple. And I'm sure you'll find multiple scenarios where you can make use of this. As we know in application development, developers don't always set all of the values that could possibly be used for identifying elements. Of course, it would be better if the developer had set the ID property and maintained the ID property for this record, because usually like this table would show a record, and for record 1 they would use an ID of let's say a value of value record 1, and that would be the ID, and then you could always recognize it that way and you wouldn't need to do this. But that would be in a perfect world, and we don't live in that. So this is the way that we can do it, and the RanoreXPath ensures that you have the power and capability to do that. And I hope to see you in the next part, and we'll go into even more greater detail and powerful things you can do with the path. Thanks. Bye.